Uh, Brett.
Hey guys, good morning. Welcome to Talking Tiny with me, your host, Chicago Bob. All right, so today we have a very special guest with us, and we'll get to him in a minute. He's waiting right there on the screen. Um, his name's Eric Krasinski from Utopian Villas. But before I get to that, I wanted to do the fun fact of the day. So, in a recent polling that we did, uh, the question was to the homeowners that own tiny houses or those who are soon to own tiny houses. They said, what scenario best describes your interest in the tiny homes? And the top answers were, I want to own one for my personal dwelling. Second place was, I want it to be my retirement home. Or the third answer, which I think we're gonna touch a lot on today, which is I want it to be used as my vacation home. 26% of people who want to be in a tiny home want to use it for their vacation home. And that brings us to our guest today. Eric Krasinski from Utopian Villas has spent the last 3-4 years of his life figuring out what it is to build a luxury tiny home on a high-end level, and he'll tell you more about that. So I want to welcome Eric to the show, and let's see what you have to say, sir. Why are
Oh,
your houses so expensive? And
well,
how?
first, Bob, want to just say thank you for inviting me and having me be on the first episode of what I think is going to be a huge hit here in the tiny house market. So I'm excited to be on, and let's see what questions you attack me with today.
Well, Eric, let's get started. Thank you for being here as well. And what is it about the tiny house movement, or I guess a better question is, how did you get started in this? I mean, what was it?
So a little bit of our history, my history in general. So we have a founding company here, and our founding company is Vertical Works, and to not get into too much detail, we have a family business that was opened up in 1982. But we here at Vertical Works and been building higher end custom modular homes since 2006. And probably 3 years ago or so, myself, our owner Justin, and a few other guys that have higher tenure, have been here for a while out in the shop, really started paying attention to this tiny house market. And Justin and I really just said, how can we go about this and approach it in a vertical works manner, in a way that nobody else is doing it, and also separate ourselves from everybody else? Because that's what we did in the housing industry. We are anti cookie cutter. We are not the person that has the Delilah, the Amanda, and the Ashley, and you pick one and we build it over and over and over. We've never built the same house twice, not even close twice. So we wanted to build a custom product, because whether it's 2,000 square feet or 200, we feel that if you're going to pay the money for something, you should be able to get it exactly how you want. So customization was the key. There is no added charge. There is no limitations to the customization. And then we said, let's build things like houses. Let's keep our guys doing what they know best, and that's building regular residential homes. So we took the term tiny home as literal as we could, and we used all of our same standard products: our Kohler fixtures, Pella windows, Merilec cabinets, Whirlpool appliances. We use all the same product and the same building application on all of our villas that we do on our homes, and that is what makes them high end. Because I think high end, honestly, is just, we don't like to call it high end, because I think high end is just a name for something that you're paying for the damn logo on the box, and that's not us. We use quality product that's going to last a long time. You're not just buying crap for the name of it. It's a quality built product, and we take a lot of pride in that.
Well, that's very cool. Um, I heard you mention no added expense. But I did some research on you guys, and there's quite a
What?
bit of expense. Eric, you sell your houses for rather an expensive price tag. Doesn't that contradict the entire tiny house movement? Isn't it all about saving money and doing things cheap?
Yeah, so let's clear the air really quick here because this is something that I find really comical in the tiny house industry. Of you have all these people thinking that they're gonna live off the land and they're gonna buy this tiny house for 30 grand and it's all gonna be flowers and roses. And we were at the tiny house jamboree last year in August, and it was, to my surprise, I was extremely enlightened by a few keynote speakers that really laid it on the majority of the people in attendance that this isn't the tiny house market. You aren't going to live off the land. You aren't going to just be able to put this wherever you want. You have to give a little if you want to get a little. And
Well,
the
and
government's
just
working.
to just to interrupt you there, um, my sources tell me that the tiny house jamboree has been sold. The original owners of it, who are purely in it for profit, and I won't mention names, you could do the research, but they have sold it to a major commercial brand agency out of the Austin area, I believe. And so the tiny house jamboree is moving to the Austin area, and you know, it was purely for profit, apparently. So I was also at the tiny house jamboree, and I agree with you 100%. I just thought I'd add that for our viewers that part of our show here is to inform, not only educate, but also inform the viewers of exactly what's going on behind the scenes with companies, products, placement, all those sorts of things. So I just wanted to add that. But all right, well, that's interesting. So you're saying price has nothing to do with it?
Put it this way. We still build houses, Bob, right? So I build, I have a 5,600 square foot house coming up that will be starting next month. Now it seems crazy that we build a 200 square foot house and then we turn around and build a 5,600 square foot house. But I can tell you this: we're in the Midwest, right? We're in Milwaukee. I shouldn't say Midwest because you're in Chicago. Your market and my market are still very different. But in the Midwest, if you wanted to buy a single ranch home at 1,500 square feet for everything excluding the property, you would still have the cost of the property. For a very basic, generic ranch style home, 1,500 square feet, you are an absolute bare bones minimum $225,000. And that is not including the land. And that is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, not Chicago, not San Francisco, not Texas, not Florida. We have a pretty reasonable market here. So when people see one of our park models, for example, selling for $150,000, and they say, I thought tiny houses were for financially stable. How much more stable do you want to get? Because you're not going to go out and buy a new construction home for anything less than, let's say, $250,000, including the lot, because the average lot in the Milwaukee market is anywhere between $60,000 and $70,000. So if we want to talk about efficient living, if we want to talk about cost savings, I think that sums it up. And I don't want to be a hater by any means, because I build houses and we build tiny houses, and I love both, and I love servicing our customers with whatever they want. That's truly what it is. I do not believe as a customer you should be limited to anything, because we're not talking about a couple $100 here. You're emptying the piggy bank if you're building a house, so you should get what you want.
And I would agree. You're definitely emptying that piggy bank at $150,000. I mean, I like Ferraris, but it doesn't mean I can afford one. So my next question really is, yeah, 26% of the people, like I said earlier, are using these for vacation homes. But I guess speed things up. I mean, if you can afford a $150,000 tiny house, why wouldn't you just? And I don't want to get into a rabbit hole on this, but my thought process is, just buy a regular home, and I could be wrong on that. So, and that's what brings me to my next question is, how are people paying for these?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that is a little bit of a rabbit hole. But as far as how people are paying for them, sometimes has to do with how they're using them. Now, my customer base is a huge demographic. You know, we just sent a unit out to Bend, Oregon, a 400 square foot park model that racked up a bill of around 160,000, and they wanted a premium luxury product because they're right by the ski slopes, right by the mountains. They own a health and wellness center, and they're going to be renting out Utopian Villas in their back acreage as a health and wellness getaway. So that exact customer used a Helix loan, which is a home equity loan, to take the equity they have in their house to pay against the loan. And if you get a home equity loan, if you're familiar with that, the bank really doesn't care what the hell you spend it on. They'll cut you a check in a minute.
Right. So okay. So these are we come to the nuts and bolts of it. So these are experienced people. These are established people. This isn't the college graduate looking to get into a tiny home. This is the luxury. This is the vacation person. This is somebody who, they've worked their ass off, and now it's time to get a place away from home. And instead of purchasing a property like you were saying earlier, you can get into one of your tiny homes or park models, for that matter, have all the high-end luxury that you could ever ask for, and obviously these people can afford it. So if I understand this correctly, you're not the Walmart of the tiny house. You don't care to be that. There's plenty of other guys out there making houses for, 40,000 or what have you. So that's not you guys, and that's cool. So I assume that your homes are above and beyond what obviously the average tiny home looks like. So how extensive is the process? Like if I called you today and I said, hey, I got 150 grand to burn, and I want, the most badass tiny house on the face of the planet. How long typically is that process? When can a customer expect their home? What's that look like?
So depending on what the customer wants, right? Because we have anything from a 100 square foot unit to a 400 square foot unit. So our travel trailers, let's say our cheapest travel trailer starts around 65,000, and our most expensive park model is say 160,000. Depending on the financing and what they need to do and what they want, if they're going to have down payment, if they want a 10-year term, 15-year term. Financing is one of the biggest issues with the customers because our product ranges so differently. Like unlike yours, Bob, you have the luxury of being set up comfortably with the financing institution that finances your units. Because our customer base is so widespread and everybody's credentials are so different, we use quite a few different lenders. So we have to figure that out. And also the other big thing is are you going to be living in it full time? Because if you're going to be living in it full time, we need to help them find the land. We prep the lot. Because we're in the housing industry, we'll install septic, we'll do sewer, we'll do helical piers or foundation. We do the whole process. We don't just drop it off and say, all right, boys, hook it up and get the hell out of here.
So these people, they're really, not to cut you off, but I really want to stress that. So you guys, I mean, this is full service. I mean, these customers are getting what they pay for in every stretch of the dollar. I mean, so you're going above and beyond the average tiny house builder when you say, helical piers. I mean, that's not some simple, 10-minute operation and septic and everything else. So although you might be like, oh my gosh, and I'm talking to the viewers right now, it's like, what the hell is this guy's deal? Like, is he out of his mind? Well, no. I mean, there's a product for everybody, right? And there's a service that speaks to everybody's needs. And for Eric and Utopian Villas, their need is to make sure that their customer, who seems, I don't want to generalize, but this is not your do-it-yourselfer customer. This is your high-end, high-maintenance. I'm too busy to plug the cord in, and I'll call you when you deliver it and just make sure that everything's okay. And I probably won't get there for another 3 weeks before I actually see it, but I'll be sure to call you once I get into town. This type of customer. I mean, this is the high end, and that's cool because. And that's the whole point of this show is we want to be able to show that it's not a linear thing. There's all different dynamics to this tiny house world, and I thought that this was really cool. So while that sounds like a long process, honestly, what is the hardest part of that process, and where is it, get to be like, is it in the samples, or,
Right.
what's the
So
hardest part there?
the big thing with us is, and you kind of touch bases on it, is I treat every single one of my customers as if they are building a home. Because whether you're building a tiny home or a 3,000 square foot 2-story Cape Cod, I am building you a home. I am building you something that you are going to be making memories in, enjoying time with your family. And a Utopian Villa gives you the longevity of a new construction home, okay? Because we build it the same way. So as long as you maintain it, you're going to get that longevity of a house out of it. Now, our process is really simple. It starts with what we call a plan deposit, okay? It's 1,500 bucks. We put you on our schedule, and within 2 weeks, we have a design session. We create your floor plan from the ground up with our architectural staff and our design staff. So we start with an open canvas, and you can take our plans, or you can take a competitor's plans, or God knows there's 100 things on Pinterest you can find, and we talk about what works for your lifestyle, how you utilize your space. And like you said, we don't just provide a premium product, but it's a premium customer service experience. I hold my customers' hands. If we pick out cabinet selections and the next day you're at Home Depot and you find a cabinet you like, my customers are calling me or texting me 11 o'clock at night saying, "Hey, Eric, I know we just picked these out yesterday, but here's a SKU. I found this at Home Depot. Can we switch it out?" Hey, sure, no problem. Or if
11 at night?
whatever. That's the service we're providing. That's we have to.
That's pretty wild. What about when they're out of town? We get a lot of. I know in my own business, a lot of our customers are out of town. They never see us. I'm assuming in your situation with this kind of money, a lot of your customers are showing up. But for those that aren't, will you send samples and things to these people? I mean, how do you handle all that?
So, a couple different things. For customers with us, if a customer is on the edge of wondering if a Utopian Villa is right from them, we will fly them out to our facility to walk through the factory, take a tour through the models, and all we do is just have them keep track of their expenses, and we'll credit whatever you give us off the cost of your unit at the end of the build. So otherwise, we do have a sample box that we'll send out. We'll UPS it. And nowadays, a lot of stuff can be taken care of online. There's a lot of local showrooms that you can find the product. And honestly, a lot of customers, because of the relationship and the trust that we build with our customers, we'll be picking out backsplashes, and the customer will just say, "Pick something you like. Tell me what you think. What's your opinion?" Because I mean, a lot of times our customers lean on us for our professional advice, which I'm known
Absolutely.
but
No, absolutely. But wow. So airfare, hotel accommodation, that's pretty. I'll be honest. That's really cool. I didn't even know that about you guys. That's really impressive to me. Well, Eric, it's always fun to do these sorts of interviews and find out about somebody else's business, but also just give us a perspective that, this tiny house industry is something that a lot of people can connect to, whether you're on the super high end like yourselves, or, there's a bunch of bare bones companies out there as well. And then there's companies like mine that's, right down the middle, and will provide we won't fly you out for free, but I mean, I'll take you to lunch. But anyway, anyways, it's been awesome. I thank you for coming on today. Before I let you go, I got to ask this question, and it's something that I'm going to start asking everybody that comes on the show, and that is, what's something about the tiny house movement that you believe to be true, but you can't find anyone who agrees with you?
Oh, what is the answer to that question? Well, I would have to say the one thing that I have in my beliefs, and I think it comes back to my background. But I believe that there is no definition of tiny. I truly believe that every person, every individual has their own definition, because who am I to tell, someone that is living right outside the suburbs of Chicago in a 6,000 square foot house that, if I talk to him and I tell him that he's going to move into a 2,000 square foot house, he's going to be like, how the hell am I going to live in that tiny house? Because he's accustomed to 6,000 square feet. So for folks out there that are used to 2,000 square feet, we're meeting them in the middle. Right now, my production line in the factory, we have 600 square foot house, 800 square foot house, 700 square foot house. There is a solution for everybody. So it doesn't have to be 100. It doesn't have to be 400. If you want to make sure there's no taxes, you want to have it as an RV, you want an RV loan, you need to keep it 400 or below. But if you want that 400 to 1,000 pocket, we can build it as a regular house. And there's a solution for everybody because everybody's definition of tiny is going to be different.
Well, that's awesome. I think that was, first of all, that
best answer ever, right?
I never heard that. That was like way left field, but it's true. I think one of the things about the tiny house movement, and I'll just leave with this, everybody, it's a rebellious movement. It's an out-of-the-box thing. And so the last thing that somebody wants to feel is like that they've been boxed in again. That they've, oh, great, I just got this cool new tiny house thing, and all my family members and people think I'm crazy, but now they're going to put me back in a box and tell me, this is exactly what I have to live in. And so I think it's very cool that you brought that up, that, yes, I believe everybody's perspective is different, just like everybody's price point is different too. And it will be interesting to see what the comments from our viewers have to say about your thoughts. And be sure to leave your comments below, because as we progress in next week's episode, we'll be sure to answer some of those questions and get your comments. And if there's anything that you want to hear from our viewers, that is, if you want to hear anything from the people that I interview, leave those questions below. We'll be sure to ask those questions. And also, if you have a unique story or know somebody who is making strides beyond recognition and they deserve that recognition, then I encourage you to get in contact with us. You can go to talkingtinywithbob.com and fill out the simple contact form, and we'll be sure to reach out to you and get you on the show. So once again, thanks everybody for coming and watching us this morning on Monday. And you can always contact us at, like I said before, talkingtinywithbob.com. You visit our Facebook page, Chicago Bob, also my Instagram, chicago.bob, and you could also find us on Twitter as well. So once again, Eric, thank you so much for coming, and you guys, thank you for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure. Talk to you guys later. Thanks.